Hi friends! One of my family members told me I started my last video off not saying hi friends. I think I said hi YouTubers. So I'm going back to my hi friends. It's a beautiful fall morning here in Central Texas and I'm getting a few more plants planted in my fall garden. Join me! I started off with just a little watered down small scale version of my super soil. Those of you that have been following me from the beginning know that I started one of my first videos, I want to say maybe the third one, but you can just scroll back and see, was my recipe for super soil. And that was when I was just, getting the containers filled up and getting the garden beds full. But now that the garden beds all have their own dirt, I just amend the soil as I go. Once you've grown something in soil, it can be pretty nutrient depleted. And even though these raised beds are, it's their first time to have things planted in them, the only thing of their base was just the mushroom compost and shredded mulch mix, professional mix from a landscaping company here in Waco. And so I amend at least about 4 to 6 inches on the top with some nutrients. It's, like I said, a watered down version of my super soil. So I just went to my soil mixing spot and got peat moss, vermiculite. I've got some pelleted lime in here, some bone meal for the phosphorus. Now I up the bone meal amount when I'm about to plant carrots or root vegetables, because those root vegetables really need a lot of phosphorus. Right now today I'm planting some greens, and I know that the greens need more nitrogen. So rather than up the phosphorus, I upped the nitrogen, which what I use for nitrogen is the blood meal powder. Available at Lowe's. I use the Jopes brand. So I've got in here the peat moss, the vermiculite, some bone meal, and mostly blood, or not mostly, but more blood meal this time than bone meal, since this is for greens. I've got, I know I put more than that. Oh, I've got some turkey compost, some Dr. Gobbler's turkey compost. I would say the majority of this is peat moss and then the nutrients that are in. So I just take scoops, handfuls full, and put it in on top of my bedding, base that I already have. And then I put a little Trifecta Plus on top, my favorite fertilizer, that's got a fast acting fertilizer in it as well as a slow release. It's got beneficial soil nutrients and bacteria that the soil needs to stay healthy. And I just kind of mix all that in. Today on this little end that I'm showing you, I'm going to plant some cilantro for fall. Now we do still have some pretty warm days ahead, and cilantro does tend to bolt in the warm weather. Go ahead and put on its, big bolt with flower head and then eventually seeds. This is actually a slow bolt cilantro, so we're going to give that a try. I haven't ever grown this kind before, but it's a slow bolt kind. So we'll see how this works. But I actually wouldn't mind that bad if it does bolt, because cilantro seeds are coriander, and coriander is a wonderful spice and flavoring to cook with. So if these cilantro seeds do bolt and I get coriander out of them, fine with me. But I will use some of the cilantro leaves along the way in soups and hot sauces and any Mexican dishes that I whip up. Here's what the coriander seeds look like. Cilantro seeds, coriander seeds, and I will just take to putting them in the soil. Kind of scatter. I'm scatter planting these because I just want a natural looking bed. I didn't want just little rows of cilantro, with this being a green and an herb. I just want like a real natural look to the beds where the herbs are just growing instead of in perfect little rows. And in the fall, I'm tending to plant more seeds than I need. I can always thin, but germination this time of the year is a little bit more of a problem than it is in the spring. The life force in a seed in the spring is just a little stronger. Life force meaning more sun, more days of sunlight, warmer weather for germination, oh my God, what is that word I'm looking for? Germination, there we go. And in the fall, we have the days start getting shorter. The temperatures drop more at night. So the cilantro seeds are not very big, so they don't have to go down deep. The ones that have to go down deep are very larger, the larger type seeds. But cilantro seeds are not very big, so I'm just doing like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. And basically just covering them with the soil and kind of tamping it down and then watering it in. Now I'm going to try not putting burlap over the top of these and see how I do. If nothing comes up and I do a second planting, I will put burlap on. But with us having a little bit cooler days now, I think it's going to work just fine without the burlap. And then of course I mark it. I have these little garden markers that I ordered on Amazon, very, very inexpensive. And I started out using Sharpies on them. No, don't use Sharpies. Those just wear off the minute the sun hits them and the minute the water hits them. Even though they're permanent markers, they do wear off of this plastic when they're out in the weather. So I use a paint pen. I use a paint pen that, you know, you shake and write on, and it stays on there pretty much forever. But you'd think, oh, I know what I planted there. I don't need to mark that. Oh no, that doesn't work that way. When you have enough garden space and you're planting several things at one time, you can't remember exactly what's everywhere. Even when you write it all down in a journal and diagram it out, you'd have to go inside to your journal to look it up. So I always mark what I plant in the garden, so when I'm out here watering and being forgetful as I am, I can always just look at my marker and know exactly what I planted there. That cilantro we just planted was down there on that end of this L-shaped bed. My pumpkins are there in the middle, which I fully expect them to kind of take over the bed once they start trailing and growing. I'm going to leave a lot of bed space open for them to just trail both ways. So I'm just planting some things on the ends of the beds just for, you know, color and for the cilantro. And down here we're going to put some dinosaur kale. The dinosaur kale is going to do quite well even on into the frosts. Kale actually takes on a wonderful flavor once it's had a frost. And this dinosaur kale will last. I'm dying to see if it makes it all winter, but I've had 3 dinosaur kale up on my patio container garden that has made it the entire summer long and done nothing but get bigger. And they get bigger every time I pick more leaves, more come up. So I just go out and pick off the leaves I want, and that plant just keeps on growing. My plan for the rest of this bed, besides letting the pumpkin, you know, trail and take up a lot of it, is with my arches, and I'm going to put snow peas and sugar snap peas on those arches. It's just way too early to plant peas here in zone 8B yet. I'm going to do that mid to late September. But I'm going to follow the same routine down here that I just showed you on planting this dinosaur kale. I've kind of roughed up the existing bedding that's there, and then I'm just going to take scoops of my super soil and amend this soil for getting some nutrients in it. I'm going to mix all that in, put a little trifecta on top, trifecta plus, and then plant my seeds. And again, I may not just scatter plant these dinosaur kale because they get pretty large and they're going to need, you know, their spacing. So I'm going to be a little more careful about spacing on the dinosaur kale because I know how large these plants get and how long they're going to last. And my seed packet says to space them about 12 inches apart. So I probably will make little mounds a good foot apart and have maybe 4 to 6 dinosaur kale right in here. Of course, I'll plant more than 4 to 6 seeds. I'll thin down to that. You don't want them too crowded. And I always try and plant about what I need because thinning, for some reason, thinning plants just breaks my heart. When they're old enough to consume, you thin them out and just throw them in a salad, and that's not wasteful. But when I'm just thinning for thinning's sake and you can't, you know, consume the little plants yet, it feels so wasteful to me, and it's just hard for me to do that. But I'm going to be a little bit more careful about how many I plant and enjoy some dinosaur kale for this whole fall and winter season. You know, it doesn't take very much of this stuff to set the soil, especially when I'm already doing some other additives. But I just love this Trifecta Plus for how good it is for my soil. The seedlings seem to come up so well when they're in there. So, you know, 1/2 to a cup over this size of a bed, about a 3-foot by 3-foot bed. And after I sprinkle the trifecta all in, I just kind of go along and scrunch it all in. Just a little scrunching going on. And then I'll set my seeds in. Stay tuned and let's see how these come up and what kind of plants we get. In the gardening world, there's a saying, carrots love tomatoes. And that's because the two are a great companion plant with each other. The carrots aerate the soil and keep it nice and light and airy for the tomatoes. And they both have complementary likes and needs on their nutrients that they are taking and putting back in the soil. So to my 4 fall tomato plants that I have planted here, I've added a row right in front of them of Amarillo carrots. Amarillo carrots are one of the free gift seeds that I got from my last order at Baker Creek Seeds. Every time you place a order at Baker Creek Seeds, they give you a free pack of seeds. So we're going to try out these Amarillo carrots, which means they're going to be a yellow carrot. And there was plenty of space in between the tomato and the edge of the bed because, as you know, I single stem prune my tomatoes. So once that grows up and meets this trellis, there's going to be nothing but stem from here down with no leaves coming off. I'll prune it to, you know, have the air flow underneath, and that'll leave plenty of room right here for just a sweet little row of carrots. Carrots love tomatoes. Am I about to do an experiment? It's almost sure to fail, but you know, let's give this a try. So Ray's out tinkering around in his shop and comes across a drawer that he's had out there forever, and found this pack of seeds, India mustard. I love mustard greens. Let's give it a try, right? Look at this, packed for 2004. These have been out in an old shop, in the heat, in the freezing. To me, there's like no chance this is going to work. But instead of tossing them and assuming that, let's give it a try. I have a little blank spot right here. It's under the Russian tomatoes that are quickly diseased and dying. And next to my zinnias and next to my peppers. And we're just going to sprinkle. I amended the soil. And we're just going to sprinkle these seeds out, water them. And if they come up, wow, it'll be awesome. If they don't, oh well, we tried. But let's give it a try and see what happens. I thought I might end up today's video by showing you how the SCOBY's doing. If you remember, we started it on August 15th. Yeah, August 15th. And look at that beautiful SCOBY forming. It's already almost a half an inch thick. You could actually stop when it's a quarter of an inch thick and go ahead and start your first brood of but I wanted my SCOBY to be a good 6, maybe 7 weeks old, and we're just a few days into it. Today is August 27th. Oh, it's already August 28th. But anyway, we're not, 6, 7 weeks in like I want to be before I use it, but look at that beautiful SCOBY coming. I don't like disturbing it much, but because I promised everyone I would thank all of you so much for joining me today. Keep watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate your subscription. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you'd like to see and how I'm doing. Thanks for joining me. Find peace.